when the light you carry becomes a target. Have you ever wondered why the very people you pour your soul into sometimes look at you with eyes that don't match their smile? Why kindness can draw both love and a quiet, cutting hostility? Why your light, your purest, most unguarded essence, can be both the thing people cling to and the thing they want to destroy? This is not your imagination. This is not bad luck. This is the ancient law of light and shadow, and if you have ever loved deeply, you have walked through its fire. There is a strange and almost paradoxical law that governs the most intimate threads of human connection. It is not written in books of reason. It does not answer to logic. It rises instead from the hidden depths of the human psyche, from that primal, ancient place where dreams mix with fears and the soul hides its truest wounds. You have felt it before, though perhaps you never gave a name. It is the subtle, magnetic tension between the bright, living flame of the empath and the quiet resentment of those who, even without meaning to, long to snuff it out. Why is it that the ones who give without measure, who heal without asking for anything back, who see into the unspoken emotions of others, why do these souls so often find themselves in the company of people unsettled by their very existence? Why does the one who feels the most so often become the one who is envied, misunderstood, or quietly despised? This is not chance. It is not a simple twist of fate. It is an ancient psychological truth, an alchemy of the unconscious that plays itself out over and over again between the self and the other. Empathy is not merely a trait of your personality. It is a living manifestation of what Carl Jung called the self, the complete, unfiltered totality of all that you are, both the light you willingly show and the shadow you cannot yet see. And when someone is truly empathic, they're not just reading emotion. They're not merely picking up subtle, energetic signals. They are opening themselves so completely that they become a vessel through which the collective unconscious itself can speak. Such a person shines without effort, not because they try to radiate, but because openness itself creates a field of presence that others feel, whether they can name it or not. But here is the cost of carrying such light. Wherever there is light, the shadow sharpens its edges. You have seen this. You have felt it. You walk into a room, and without a single word, something shifts. Some are drawn to you instantly, as if they've been waiting for you without even knowing it. Their eyes warm, their energy leaning toward you. Others smile politely, but something in them pulls back, their gaze tightening, their presence retreating even as they stand before you. On the surface, they may admire you. Deep inside, something twists. Some old, unhealed part of them resents you, and you cannot understand why. So what is this hidden hostility? Why does your mere existence cause discomfort they can't name? The answer is buried in the archetype Jung called the shadow. Every human being carries one, that dark container of everything we reject, deny, or bury deep inside. And when someone encounters an empath, they are faced with more than warmth and openness. They're confronted with the reflection of what they lack, of what they wish they could be, and of what they have hidden away from themselves for years. Your light, your authenticity, your emotional courage becomes a mirror they didn't ask for but cannot avoid. It reveals the wounds they've buried. It shows them the truth they've tried to silence. And resentment begins to stir. Understand this. It is rarely about you. It is about what they see when they look at you. It is about what awakens in them when they feel the field of your presence. Some will run from this reflection. Some will attack it. And some, the ones who are ready, will draw closer, not because it is comfortable, but because deep down they know the light you carry is the very thing they've been searching for. But in those who are not ready, the shadow rises in defense. And it will not always announce itself as hostility. Sometimes it wears the disguise of a backhanded compliment, a subtle withdrawal, a sudden coldness. Sometimes it hides behind politeness while quietly eroding the bond between you. To live as an empath is to feel this unspoken dance again and again, to sense the quiet friction between your flame and their darkness, between the part of them that longs for your light and the part that fears it. And if you do not understand this dynamic, you will take it personally. You will think something is wrong with you. You will wonder if perhaps you are too much, too open, too sensitive, too intense. But the truth is, it was never about you at all. It was about what your light reflects in them, and the shadow that will fight to keep it hidden. The mirror that cannot be ignored. When you understand the nature of the shadow, you begin to see why some people cannot bear to be in the presence of your light for long. Every person carries this shadow, the unseen side of the psyche, the hidden vault of every desire they've shamed themselves for, every wound they have not tended, every truth they have locked away because it felt too dangerous to admit. The shadow is not evil in itself. It is simply the part of the self that has been disowned. And when someone encounters a deeply empathic soul, they do not merely see a person. They see a mirror. You are that mirror. And mirrors are dangerous to those who have built their lives around not looking too closely. When you walk into a space, you don't just bring warmth, you bring contrast. You make visible what they have worked so hard to keep invisible. The ease with which you connect reveals how disconnected they feel from themselves. Your ability to sit in vulnerability exposes the fortress walls they've built inside. Your authenticity draws attention to the mask they wear every single day. And here lies the truth most empaths never hear. Your light, as beautiful as it is, can feel like a silent accusation to someone who is hiding from their own soul. It is as if your very existence whispers to them. You are not living your truth. Some will hear this whisper and awaken. Others will hear it and grow defensive. Their unconscious mind, seeking to protect the self-image they've worked so hard to preserve, will project this discomfort outward onto you. Suddenly, you are too sensitive, too intense, too emotional. Not because these things are true, but because these labels help them keep the mirror turned away. In Jungian terms, this is projection at work. When something within us is too painful or too threatening to acknowledge, we see it in someone else instead. And you, as an empath, are often the unwilling bearer of these projections. You do not just hear people's words. You feel their unspoken emotions. You can sense the contraction in their energy, the tightening behind their polite smiles. You feel the subtle drop in temperature when you reveal too much of your heart. And it hurts because part of you still believes it must be about you. Part of you wonders if perhaps your openness really is a burden, if perhaps your light is too bright, if perhaps you're somehow responsible for their reaction. But you must remember, their reaction is the work of their own shadow, not a verdict on your worth. They are not rejecting you. They are rejecting what you represent, the unclaimed parts of themselves that they are not yet ready to face. There is another layer to this, one far more intimate and dangerous. The empath often carries what Jung might call the archetype of the wounded healer. The reason you can feel so deeply is not because life has spared you, but because life has carved you open. You have known pain. You have walked through loss, betrayal, rejection. You have felt the kind of loneliness that leaves scars no one else can see. Your light is not naive. It was not born in a meadow of perpetual sunshine. It was forged in the dark, in the places where you thought you might break. And others sense this, even if only subconsciously. They feel that you hold a kind of knowledge, a wisdom born of suffering, transformation, and renewal. To some, this is magnetic. They want to be near you, to bask in the warmth you carry. But here is the paradox. That same warmth can feel invasive to those who are not ready to see what you see. It can feel like sunlight to someone whose eyes have only known darkness, blinding, exposing too much. So they do what they must to protect themselves. They keep their distance, or they draw near only to take what they can, draining you in ways they don't even realize. And when your presence stirs too much discomfort, they turn that discomfort into resentment. I want you to imagine this dynamic as a fire. Your light is the flame, steady, alive, luminous. Some approach it for warmth, and in that warmth they soften, they open, they remember themselves. Others draw near because they are cold, but instead of receiving the warmth, They try to control it, to possess it, to contain it so that it never forces them to see what is hidden in their shadows. Still others, threatened by what it reveals, will try to extinguish it altogether. It is not that they hate you. They hate what you awaken in them. They hate the discomfort of seeing their own unhealed wounds reflected back so clearly. And here is the hardest truth. The people who resent your light the most are often the ones who need it the most. They're the ones whose souls are starving for authenticity, for freedom, for emotional truth. But because they are afraid to confront the places where they are not living honestly, they turn longing into envy, admiration into contempt, and fear into quiet hostility. This is why so many empaths find themselves caught in relationships, romantic, familial, or professional, where they are both adored and undermined at the same time. You become someone's comfort and their trigger, their safe place and their deepest threat. And if you are unaware of this ancient dance, you will live in confusion. You will bend yourself in all directions trying to please them, to ease their discomfort, to earn their approval, without realizing that the discomfort was never yours to fix in the first place. Because this was never about whether you deserved love. It was about whether they could bear to see themselves in your light. The paradox of the wounded healer. There is a deeper, more dangerous current beneath the surface of why your light attracts not only love, but hidden hostility. It lies in the paradox of the wounded healer, the archetype that so many empaths unknowingly embody. You do not feel deeply because life has been gentle with you. You feel deeply because you have been broken and because you dared to gather the pieces back together again. Your capacity for empathy is not the result of a charmed life. It is the fruit of walking through storms that stripped you bare, of surviving nights when you thought you would never see the dawn. And this is precisely why others are drawn to you. Even without knowing your story, they sense something ancient in your presence, an understanding of suffering that does not need words. It makes them feel safe, seen, known. But the very thing that draws them in is the same thing that can turn their hearts against you. Because to stand in the presence of someone who has faced their own darkness is to be reminded of the darkness you yourself have avoided. It is to feel in your bones the truth that there is no shortcut to light, that you must pass through the shadow to reach it. And not everyone is ready for that journey. This is why some people cannot stay close to you for long. They want your warmth, your understanding, your presence, but they do not want the mirror that comes with it. They want the fire without the illumination. This is not unlike the image of the sun. The sun gives life, warmth, and clarity. But not everyone welcomes the sun. Some find it too bright, too revealing, too relentless in its exposure of what is hidden. They crave the shadows because the shadows hide what they are not ready to see. In the same way, an empath's energy can feel intrusive to those who have built their lives around not being seen too clearly. They will say you are too sensitive or too emotional. But what they truly mean is that your sensitivity unmasks the things they have buried in themselves. And here lies the secret resentment. They are both drawn to your light and threatened by it. They want to stand near the warmth of the fire, but they cannot bear the illumination that comes with it. This dynamic is so old that it appears in myths, dreams, and archetypes across time and culture. In dreams, it often takes the form of a luminous child, a radiant being shining with purity and truth, standing alongside a shadow figure. The envious sibling, the dark twin, the trickster who seeks to extinguish the light. It is the eternal motif of the light bearer and the shadow, of the hero and the adversary. And in your waking life, it plays out in relationships where you feel drained, misunderstood, or quietly sabotaged. Not because you are flawed, but because you are living out the role of the luminous archetype, and wherever such light exists, the shadow will rise to meet it. I want you to pause here and remember the last time you felt this tension. Perhaps you noticed someone's smile falter when you shared something vulnerable. Perhaps you sensed the air shift, a sudden coldness in someone who had been warm just moments before. You might have thought, what did I do wrong? But the truth is, you did nothing wrong at all. The light in you simply stirred the shadow in them. And the shadow, is not gentle when it is threatened. It will protect itself in whatever way it can, sometimes through withdrawal, sometimes through criticism, sometimes through subtle sabotage disguised as concern. There's also a pattern that many empaths live without even realizing: the archetype of the martyr. You give and give, often without boundaries, believing that love is something earned through sacrifice. Perhaps this began in childhood, when you were praised for caring but criticized for feeling too much. Over time, you learn to prioritize others' emotions over your own, to carry their burdens in silence, to believe that your worth lies in your ability to heal and soothe. This creates an unspoken contract between you and others. You will absorb their pain, and in return they will feel better. But the shadow always collects its debt. They may admire you for your warmth, but they will also resent the mirror you hold to their darkness. They will need you, and yet part of them will want to pull away, to reject, to diminish you, so they do not have to face the truth you represent. It is like a dream in which you hold a candle in a dark room. Figures gather around you. Some reach out to warm their hands in its glow. Others try to cup it in their palms, to take it from you, to make it theirs. And some, without quite knowing why, try to blow it out. This is not just a dream. It is your life. It is the journey of the empath, walking into rooms carrying a light that will comfort some, inspire others, and provoke the shadow in those who are not ready to see themselves. Your task is not to put out your light to avoid their discomfort. Your task is to learn how to hold it, steady, unwavering, without being burned by the shadows it reveals. The dance of projections. There is a moment in every empath's life when they finally understand. Resentment is not a verdict against you. It is a signpost, a flare from the unconscious, revealing that your presence has touched a place in someone that even they may not dare to enter. Until you learn this truth, you will take everything personally. You will absorb their irritation as proof that you have failed, that you have given wrong, that perhaps you should be quieter, smaller, easier to bear. You will twist yourself into a shape that will not awaken anyone's discomfort, and in doing so, you will betray your own soul. But resentment is not born from your wrongdoing. It is born from what you represent. When two people meet, it is not only their conscious selves that interact. Their unconscious minds, their archetypes, their hidden complexes also collide. The empath often carries the archetype of the anima or animus, the inner feminine or masculine principle that represents emotional depth, intuition, and soulfulness. When someone encounters this archetype outside themselves, in you, they're drawn to it because it feels like a missing part of their soul. But if they have rejected that part within themselves, they will also feel an instinctive hostility toward it. Your existence becomes a challenge to the life they have constructed. It confronts them with a truth they have tried to bury, that the depth they long for exists, but it will cost them the safety of their masks to reach it. There's another trap here, one that catches many empaths: the unconscious belief that you are responsible for fixing others, that you must carry their pain, heal their wounds, take them across the river they refuse to wade themselves. You tell yourself it is love, but often it is fear. Fear of being useless, fear of being unneeded, fear that if you are not constantly mending others, you will lose your place in their lives. This belief can make you a magnet for those unwilling to take responsibility for their own healing. They are drawn to you, yes, but not to grow. They are drawn to you because they sense you will carry the weight they will not touch. And here the cycle begins. They give you their shadows. You carry them. They feel lighter, but not freer. And deep inside, they resent you for showing them that it is possible to live without those burdens, because they know they did not release them through their own courage. In dreams, the psyche often shows this dynamic with startling clarity. A figure of light walks into a shadowed room. The darkness presses close, some faces yearning, others snarling. Hands reach for the light, some to be warmed, others to clutch and possess, others to snuff it out. The light-bearer, confused, does not understand why the same glow that comforts some provokes hatred in others. But the dream is not about them. It is about the nature of light itself. Light does not choose who welcomes it and who resists it. It simply reveals. And this is the part that hurts. As an empath, you're not only a light bearer, you are also a mirror. Mirrors do not flatter. They do not soften the truth. They reflect exactly what stands before them, no more and no less. Some will thank you for this reflection. Others will despise you for it. But you must remember, the mirror is not responsible for the image it reflects. If they hate what they see, their quarrel is not with the mirror, it is with themselves. The danger for you lies here. If you do not know yourself, if you do not know the boundaries between their shadow and your soul, you will start to believe you are the image they project onto you. You will confuse their unhealed wounds with your identity. And once that happens, you will either shrink to escape their judgment, or you will fight to prove them wrong, pouring more and more energy into convincing them of your worth. In either case, you lose yourself. This is why boundaries are not a luxury for the empath. They are survival. Boundaries are not walls. They are the natural edges of your soul's garden. They say, I can stand with you in your darkness, but I will not carry what is not mine. I can witness your pain, but I will not take it into my body as if it were my own. Without these boundaries, resentment becomes poison, not just theirs, but yours. You will begin to resent them for resenting you. You will grow bitter at the very gift you were born to carry. But when you live with awareness, something shifts. You see resentment for what it is, a sign of awakening, even if the other person does not yet see it that way. You learn to hold your ground in the presence of hostility without losing compassion, and you begin to understand. You are not here to make everyone comfortable. You are here to be true, the eternal fate of a light bearer. When you step back and look at history, at myth, at religion, you begin to see a truth that is both sobering and strangely comforting. The bringers of light have always been misunderstood, envied, and often persecuted. Prometheus stole fire from the gods to give to humanity, and for his gift, he was bound and punished for eternity. Christ embodied compassion and truth and was crucified by those whose hearts could not bear his light. The prophet, the healer, the visionary, they have always stood on the trembling edge between acceptance and rejection, between being revered and being condemned. Your life may not carry such dramatic weight, but the principle is the same. When you embody light, you reveal darkness. And not everyone welcomes that revelation. I tell you this not to frighten you, but to awaken you. The empath who understands this dynamic ceases to take it personally. You begin to see resentment not as a wound to your worth, but as proof that your presence has stirred something in the depths of another. You stop asking, what is wrong with me? And you start asking, what is this showing me about them and about myself? Because yes, even as an empath, you carry your own shadow. And if you ignore it, you will fall into the same unconscious patterns that keep others from seeing themselves clearly. Sometimes your shadow appears in subtle ways. Perhaps you take secret pride in your sensitivity, feeling quietly superior to those who are more guarded. Perhaps you believe your ability to feel makes you purer, wiser, more awake than others. Beware of this temptation. It is subtle, but it is poison. Others will sense this unspoken hierarchy, and they will resent it even before they can name why. The key is humility, to hold your light not as a weapon or a badge, but as a natural, unforced expression of who you are. True light does not need to prove itself. Why do you attract these challenging dynamics again and again? It is not only because of what you are, it is also because of what you believe. Deep down, many empaths hold the unconscious belief that they must heal the world, that they are responsible for lifting the burdens of those around them. But this belief, as noble as it sounds, is a trap. Because when you believe you are here to save everyone, you draw to yourself people who will gladly hand you their pain without ever facing it themselves. They are drawn to you like moths to a flame, not to be transformed, but to stay close enough to feel warmth without the work of tending their own fire. And if you're not conscious of this, your life will become an endless cycle of giving until you are empty. There's an image that comes to me again and again when I think of this dynamic. A garden. The empath is like a garden filled with fragrant flowers and nourishing fruit. People come to this garden for many reasons. Some to rest and appreciate its beauty. Some to take what they need with gratitude. And some, tragically, to trample it, not because they hate gardens, but because they cannot stand what they represent: life, growth, abundance. The garden does not choose who enters, but the gardener chooses how it is tended. You must learn to tend your inner garden. You must build a fence, not to keep everyone out, but to protect what is sacred, not to isolate, but to ensure that only those who respect your light can stand close to it. This is not selfishness. This is self-respect. And without it, your light will dim, not because others have taken it, but because you have given it away without care. Think of the last time someone's resentment pierced you like a blade. Perhaps they mocked your sensitivity, dismissed your feelings, or subtly tried to make you feel small. What did you do? Did you shrink? Did you apologize for being who you are? Or did you stand quietly but firmly in your truth, knowing their reaction was not truly about you? This is the test of the empath. To stand in your truth without closing your heart. To see the shadow without being swallowed by it. The shadows of others are not your enemy, but they're not your responsibility to carry. Your role is not to make everyone comfortable. If your light unsettles someone, that is their path to walk. You're not here to dim yourself to ease their discomfort. In fact, your very presence may be the catalyst they need to awaken, though you may never see the result. The unconscious works in ways we cannot predict, sometimes taking years or decades to bring forth its transformations. You may never know how your light has changed someone, but trust that it does. And trust, too, that your first responsibility is to keep your flame alive, for without it, you have nothing left to give. The loneliness of a light bearer. There's a kind of loneliness that only the deeply feeling soul knows. It is not the loneliness of being alone. It is the loneliness of being surrounded by people who love your light, but do not see your humanity. They seek you out when they are weary, because your presence is a refuge. They lean into your warmth when the cold of their own life presses in. They bask in your understanding, in your ability to hold space without judgment. But how many of them ask, who protects a protector? Who heals the healer? You, with your open heart, may find yourself surrounded by those who take and take, never realizing that the well they drink from is not infinite. And in the quiet moments, you wonder, why do I feel so drained? Why does giving not always lead to connection? This, too, is part of the hidden resentment. Those who resent your light will often unconsciously try to take it, believing that if they can possess what you have, they will finally feel whole. But wholeness cannot be borrowed. It must be found within. The psyche of those who resent your light is often tormented by what I call the shadow ideal, an inner image of who they wish they could be, kind, compassionate, free, but which they have disowned. When they see you living that truth, their shadow ideal stirs, and instead of saying, "Teach me," they say, "How dare you?" It is a strange kind of envy, a bitter awareness that they are living behind walls of fear while you, with all your imperfections, dare to live unmasked. This is why the empath often becomes the target of subtle emotional games, passive-aggressive comments, veiled criticism, the kind of rejection that wounds the spirit without leaving a mark. But these reactions are not truly about you. They are about the battle raging within the other person, a battle they are not yet willing to face. You may ask, but why me? Why do I always seem to attract such dynamics? The answer is simple, and yet it carries profound weight. Because your light is not neutral. It is magnetic. The unconscious of others recognizes on some primal level that you carry a key, the key to something they have lost or forgotten. Some will approach you with gratitude, some with hunger, and others with hostility. But all of them are responding to the same force, your connection to the self, the living archetype of wholeness. This is why I call the empath a psychological alchemist. You're constantly transmuting the raw energies of others, fear, anger, sorrow, into something that can be understood and sometimes healed. But alchemy is dangerous when practiced unconsciously. If you're not aware, you will absorb what is not yours. You will confuse their shadow with your identity. You will begin to feel that you're the problem, that your sensitivity is a curse rather than a gift. Here is an image that will stay with you. You are a mirror. You do not create the image. You only reflect it. Some will thank you for this reflection. Others will despise you for it. But the mirror is never responsible for the face it reveals. Dreams often show this dynamic as a lantern carried through a dark forest. Figures emerge from the shadows, some reaching for the light, others trying to blow it out. These shadowy figures are not enemies in the truest sense. They are unintegrated aspects of the self. And in waking life, these aspects are often projected onto others. When someone resents your light, they are really wrestling with their own darkness. And in that moment, you become both a threat and a teacher, whether you wish to be or not. The temptation is to respond to resentment by dimming yourself. You think, if I am less bright, less open, less myself, perhaps they will not be threatened. But that is a betrayal of your essence. Your light is not a weapon, but neither is it something to hide. It is the natural radiance of a soul that has walked through fire and emerged whole. Do not confuse humility with self-erasure. True humility is to shine without demanding to be seen, to love without demanding to be loved in return, to give without losing your core. The path of the empath is not easy. It demands that you live in the tension of opposites, to hold both light and shadow, love and pain, connection and solitude. But it is also a path of profound meaning. Those who feel most deeply are often those called to the work of individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole by integrating all parts of the psyche. Empaths are particularly suited to this journey because they have already learned to navigate the currents of emotion and intuition. Yet individuation also demands something many empaths resist: boundaries, the right to exist as you are without apology. Without this, you will remain trapped in cycles of being both adored and resented, giving endlessly until you are empty. The courage to keep shining. Consider the archetype of the healer. In myths and stories, the healer is rarely someone untouched by pain. They're the ones who have been wounded and have found a way to transform that wound into wisdom. Your light is forged from this same fire, from nights you thought would break you, from losses that carved deep valleys in your soul, for betrayals that forced you to rebuild yourself from the inside out. Others do not see the road you've walked. They only see the glow. And sometimes, that glow triggers their own unhealed wounds. They may resent you, not because you are perfect, but because your survival reminds them of a strength they have not yet claimed. It is as if they are saying, "How can you shine when I am still in the dark?" This is not something you can fix for them. It is something you must simply witness, with compassion, but also with detachment. Ask yourself, what does my light represent to those who resent me? What archetype do I awaken in them? Is it the inner child who longs for love but has never received it? Is it the shadow self that despises vulnerability? Is it the hidden potential they are afraid to express? When you begin to understand this, you stop taking their reactions personally. You start to see the deeper game, the dance of projections and archetypes. And in that awareness, you find freedom. But there's also your own shadow to face. Yes, even the empath has one. Perhaps yours is the fear of being selfish, the terror of being seen as unkind. Perhaps you give and give because you are afraid of what will happen if you stop. Will they still love you if you're not always the one who understands, forgives, and bends? The resentment you attract from others often mirrors the resentment you hold against yourself. For all the times you silenced your own needs, dimmed your own voice, betrayed your own boundaries. This is why self-awareness is not optional for you. It is survival. There comes a sacred turning point in every empath's life. The moment you realize your light is not meant to be spent recklessly, but cultivated like a flame that grows brighter with care. You begin to see that not everyone who reaches for you deserves access to your innermost self. This is not cruelty. It is discernment. For too long, you may have believed that kindness means saying yes to every request, every demand, every subtle pull on your spirit. But living this way hollows you out. You shine without replenishment. You give without receiving. And those who secretly resent your light will keep taking until there is nothing left. Not because they are evil, but because they do not know how to tend their own fire. The true lesson of the empath is this: you are not here to save everyone. You are not here to carry every burden. Empathy does not mean losing yourself. It means seeing clearly, feeling deeply, and responding with wisdom. There is a difference between compassion and self-sacrifice. Compassion flows from wholeness, from the understanding that every soul must face its own shadow. Self-sacrifice often flows from wounds, from the belief that you must give everything to be worthy of love. The more conscious you become, the more you see this distinction. You recognize when someone's resentment is a mirror of their own self-hatred. You sense when their rejection is a projection of their unhealed wounds. And instead of shrinking, you learn to stand in stillness, neither fighting nor absorbing, simply holding your ground. When the archetype of the empath matures, it transforms into the archetype of the sage. The sage does not fear the resentment of others because they know it is part of the soul's alchemy. They understand that the shadow must resist before it can transform. You are being called to this path of maturity, to step beyond the need to be liked, beyond the fear of being misunderstood. And when you do, something extraordinary happens. You begin to see the hidden beauty in even the most difficult dynamics. That person who resents your light, they are not your enemy. They are, in a strange way, your teacher. They show you where your boundaries need to be stronger. They reveal where your sense of self needs to be clearer. They even point toward where your own shadow still hides. In the hero's journey, the adversary often teaches the greatest lessons. And so it is with you. When you face resentment, you are being asked to claim your strength, to hold your light not as a fragile candle, but as a torch that cannot be easily extinguished. This does not mean becoming hard or defensive. It means standing in your essence with quiet confidence, knowing that your worth is not determined by how others react to you. Your light is not only for others, it is also for you. Have you considered that? So often, empaths live outwardly, pouring energy into everyone else, rarely turning that same warmth inward. But your soul longs for your own attention. It longs for the moments when you sit in silence and let your own heart speak. When you honor your own dreams, your own fears, your own needs. Because just as others have shadows, so do you. And within your shadow lie treasures, your hidden power, your unclaimed desire, your true voice. When you integrate these parts of yourself, resentment loses its power over you. You see it for what it is, a sign of someone else's disconnection, and you no longer feel the need to fix it or prove yourself. Here is the dream that belongs to your life. You are walking down a long, dark hall, carrying a vessel of light. Figures emerge from the shadows, some with reverence, some with anger. Some try to blow out your flame, others try to take it. But the dream is not about them. It is about you. Will you keep walking? Will you protect that light, even when the wind of judgment and misunderstanding blows? Will you dare to shine, knowing not everyone will understand? Because in the end, the reason empaths attract people who secretly resent their light is not because something is wrong with the empath. It is because the empath is a living reminder of what is possible: authenticity, vulnerability, wholeness. These qualities are rare in a world that prizes masks and facades. And when people see someone who dares to live without those masks, they're forced to confront their own fear of being real. Some will run from that confrontation. Some will attack it. But others, the ones who are ready, will be inspired. They will see your light and think, perhaps I can shine too. Do not be afraid of the resentment you encounter. It is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that you are shining, that your being is awakening something in the world around you. And if the world resists, let resist. Your task is not to fight the darkness, but to be so completely yourself that the darkness cannot help but notice. Stand in your light. Hold your flame high. Walk the path of the soul with both courage and tenderness. For the world needs what you carry, even if it does not always welcome it. And the time will come when even those who resented your light will see that it was not a threat, but a gift, a mirror of their own unclaimed radiance.